Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So this is the lecture for our subject Human Resource Management AAM2053. So today we will talk about topic number 4, Human Resource Planning. At the end of this chapter, you should be able to explain the concept of human resource planning. You should also be able to describe the importance of human resource planning. And then you should be able to explain the linking process of human resource planning with organizational planning. And last but not least, you should be able to define the steps involved in the HR planning process in an organization. So what is human resource planning, or we call it as HRP? It is the process of getting the right number of qualified people into the right job at the right time. For example, if I am an owner of a small company, if I'm thinking of human resource planning, I might want to think about the process of getting how many workers that I really need to help me to run my business, my small business, at the right time and at the right kind of occupation or job need to be done by those workers. So I need to have a good plan who I will need to do what, and then when I want to do their job, and how many of them that I require for me to run my small business. In another sense, human resource planning is a process that identifies current and future human resources needs for an organization to achieve its goals. Human resource planning should serve as a link between human resource management and also the overall strategic plan of an organization. For example, if a big company has its own numbers of workers already, but because of the changes in terms of the company's policy, technology, the current needs of human resources, the production, the volume of production or services by the company, so human resource planning play a very articulate and a very subtle kind of position or function in that particular organization, which identifies the current numbers of the workers in the organization and how many of the workers are still needed in the organization. So human resource planning is so important, which always align with the other strategic plan in the organization. And then other scholars mention that the process, human resource planning is the process that links the human resource needs of an organization to its strategic plan in ensuring that staffing is sufficient, qualified, and competent enough to achieve the organization's objectives. You don't have an amount of workers in a surplus situation, too many workers for several occupations. No. And we don't want to have a shortage of workers also. There are a lot of works being done by a small number of workers, so it will be burden to the organization and also burden to the small numbers of workers. So human resource planning is becoming a vital organizational element for maintaining a competitive advantage and also reducing employee turnover. To match internal or external source of people with the openings the organization expects to have over a given time frame. So this is also another perspective of human resource planning. To match the internal sources that the organization already have in terms of the workers. Do they really need to outsource? Do they really need to have more workers to run their businesses? Or it's actually enough to have that number of workers to carry on their business like usual? So this is the understanding of matching internal or external source of people with the openings the organizations expect. It is also how organizations assess the future supply of and demand for human resources. And then the first challenge of human resource planning is to translate the organization's plans and objectives into a timed schedule of employee requirements. Once the employee requirements have been determined, human resource planning must devise plans for securing the necessary employees. We don't want to have shortage numbers of workers. No. We also don't want to have surplus number of workers. So it means that right people with right knowledge, skills and attitudes with right jobs and at the right time. So this is the formula for success. If I can give you another example, a company only needs maybe 3 marketing executives in doing all the projects, all the tasks, all the responsibilities of marketing for the organization. It is not right in terms of numbers if they have maybe 2 marketing executives to do 3 positions of marketing executive. So it means that there is a shortage of workers there. Or in another sense, or at the other side of the coin, they have 3 positions for marketing executives, but there are 4 or 5 marketing executives already. So it means that it is a surplus of workers, 5 workers doing 3 positions of job. So it is also not right. And then in the matter of the quality, the knowledge, skills and attitudes or competencies of the workers, it is also related to human resource planning. Let's say a lecturer in the field of Islamic studies, they are suitable to teach subjects like usuluddin, da'wah, fiqh and so on, syariah and so on. What if a lecturer like me, okay, management lecturer with no background of Islamic studies, teach such subjects of da'wah, subjects of aqidah and so on. So this is what we call as not the right people to be that position of lecturing. So how can we find success if we don't have that 3 formula of right people, right jobs and also right time? So this is the concern of having what we call as human resource planning. So what are the relations of human resource planning with organizational planning? Human resource planning involves applying the basic planning process to the HR needs of the organization. Human resource planning here means it related to the planning, to the forecast to the meticulous and good process of human resource needs in an organization. To be effective, any human resource plan must be derived from the long-term and operational plans of the organization. Success of human resource planning depends on how organization can integrate effective people planning with business planning process. If you maybe had discussed it about this about the strategic plan or about the strategic management in your previous subjects like organizational management, organizational behavior, so you know that organization always have three types of planning: the long term planning, the middle term planning, and the short term planning. So the long term planning always related to what we call as the vision of the organization in maybe 20 years time, where the organization wants to locate themselves, okay, in the market out there. What will they have in another 20 years? So that's the aspect of what we call as long term planning, and also the highest level planning in an organization. So human resource planning also related to what we call as the long term plan, right? The strategic plan. So that's what we call as the relations of HRP or human resource planning with organizational planning. So strategic business planning seeks to identify various factors critical to the success of the organization. It also focuses on how the organization can compete successfully in the market competition. Planning process should provide a clear statement of the organization's mission, a commitment from all the staff members towards the mission, an explicit statement of assumptions, their forecasts or their expectations, long-term expectations of the organization and its direction, and then a plan of action of available or acquirable resources, which includes trained and talented workforce. Human resource planning contributes significantly to the strategic management process by providing the means to accomplish the outcomes desired from the planning process, desired from the long-term planning process. In essence, the HR demands and needs are derived from the strategic and also operating planning and the compared with human resource availability. Then, a variety of HR programs such as recruiting, training, reallocation and reallocation. Reallocation means we maybe transfer workers to several other departments to make sure that the department can work well. And then reallocation means to reallocate maybe a group of good workers to scatter all over the organization, so that the organization can be developed well and so on. So again, a variety of HR programs address the resulting gaps. So this is a diagram which I got from a source that shows the linkage of the process of human resource planning and strategic planning. So in identifying people-related business issue, we have what we call as strategic analysis. We establish the context of the organization, which comprises of business goals, okay, company strengths and weaknesses, and also external opportunities. In defining HR strategies, objectives, and action plans, So we have what we call as strategy formulation. We clarify performance expectations and future management methods. This is related to values, guiding principle, business mission, objectives and priorities, and also resource allocations. And then to implement human resource processes, policies and practices, we have the strategy implementation, which implement processes in achieving desired results. Basically, it's reflected by business goals, company's strengths and weaknesses, external opportunities or threats, and also source of competitive advantage. So all managers in an organization should view human resource planning as one of their most important job scope. Not only think that it is the role of human resource manager in human resource department only. The role of human resource planning is to assist operating managers in any other departments in developing their individual plans and integrating those plans into an overall scheme. Let's say in USIM, okay, we have our human resource department there, right, in the chancellery. It doesn't mean that the human resource manager and also the executives of human resources there are responsible 100% in human resource planning in any other departments. So according to what we read just now about this, it is also the role of any other managers. For example, the manager of a faculty is the dean. So in Faculty of Leadership and Management, Faculty of Economic and Muamalat, Faculty of Shariah and Law, the deans as the manager of the faculty is also responsible in taking care of human resource planning, because they want to develop their individual plans and how many lecturers they want to have in their faculty for the 5 years or in the 5 years, and then how many clerks they require to help the lecturers in the time frame of 5 years and others. Okay. So I took this from one of the sources in the internet, showing how an organization have their human resource processes, human resource planning processes. So this is the 7 steps of human resource planning in an organization. So the company starts with what they call as analyze objectives. They look into the objectives of the organization as a whole, and then they look into the objectives of departments as a specific objectives, and then this objective might related to how many workers are required to do a set of task, which is a continuous kind of task. Maybe 10 workers are needed in doing tasks of marketing, accounting, managing, okay, things related to operations like clerks, technicians and so on. So that particular department, okay, the objectives really related to the sufficient number of workers to achieve the objectives. So the company then move to the second part, which is, or the second process, the second step, which is inventory current human resources. How many current resources that they have at that time? Maybe they have only 8. So they have a shortage of another 2 workers to help the department to reach their objectives. So that's why we look into inventory. Inventory ni apa? Inventory is a kind of system that shows the background of the workers that they have in current time, and their specific tasks, specific performance, specific capability and background. So all of those information been put in what we call as inventory. Okay, a system that put every single information about every single workers in an organization or in a specific department. And then the third step in human resource planning by this organization is doing what we call as forecast demand. Okay, they forecast the demand of the organization, also the demand of the market in producing products, in producing services, how many workers that the organization and also the specific departments needs. So just now I shared that this particular department they might have only 8 workers in doing 10 workers job, so they have a shortage of 2 workers. So the company do what we call as forecast demand. So it means that they might want to look into, okay, how many workers that certain department needs, okay, in order to produce effective and efficient works and also task. So they look into the forecast demand. Demand forecast means the assumption, jangkaan terhadap keperluan sumber manusia. The forecast of the demand for human resource. The fourth step is estimate gaps. So just now we said that we only have 8 workers, but we need another 2 workers. Okay, so it means that the gap there is 2 workers. Maybe 2 clerical workers or 2 executive workers. Okay, it's up to what we have forecasted, and also now we are doing the estimated gaps. And then formulate plan. So it means that we need to formulate the plan of getting another 2 workers. Either we have the other 2 workers from the other department in the organization, currently working with the organization, or we want to plan to get workers from outside. Okay, a good candidate to fill up those 2 positions that we are lacking in the organization. And then we implement plan. Okay, the plan to hire maybe or to get another 2 workers by interview, okay, or by realigning, okay, the workers from any other department into that department. And then after we have done all the things, we do the monitoring process or controlling, and also getting feedback. And then this is a continuous cycle whereby after we have monitored, controlled, and get feedback, we go back to the square one, which is we analyze the objectives again. Maybe after 3 years or 5 years, we analyze back the objectives, and then we do all the other steps in this human resource planning steps. Okay, according to scholars, abaikan je perkataan tutorial activity ni. Alright, so according to scholars, there are 4 steps in the human resource planning process. Number 1, determining the impact of the organization's objectives on specific organizational units. For example, in Faculty of Leadership and Management, okay, to carry on the process of teaching and learning, the process of disseminating ilmu, the process of organizing academic activities in and also out of USIM. So the faculty need to have 50 academic members, and that 50 academic members to do task, okay, as been identified by the faculty or university. So this is what we call as determining the impact of the organization's objective, USIM's objective of providing a good level or universal level of teaching and learning process on specific organization unit, on specific faculty, Faculty of Leadership and Management. Number 2, defining the skills, expertise, competencies, and the total number of employees, which we call as demand for human resources, required to achieve the organizational and departmental objectives. So as I told you just now, Faculty of Leadership and Management might need to have 40 or 50 academic staff to acquire or to achieve the objectives of the university. So they need to come, all those 40 or 50 lectures, they need to come with sufficient skills, expertise, and also their competencies for them to do their job, for them to achieve the organizational, the university, and also the department, the faculty's objectives. The third step is determining the additional human resource requirements in light of the organization's current human resources. We have discussed about this. And then number 4, developing action plans in meeting the anticipated human resource needs. Maybe the faculty needs another 5 academic members to handle a sufficient number of lectures, PhD students, and so on. So this is the 4th level or 4th step in human resource planning process. We need to have action plans to look into how many academic members that we are going to get as an additional member for another 5 years maybe, or 10 years maybe. So above all, we need to know that when we are doing the planning strategy for human resource management, we are doing the what we call as the strategic planning in organization, we need to always look into how Islam drive us in this particular sense of planning. So Muslims' plan must not be short-sighted and should consider the far and behind the scenes issues that are relevant to the goal of Islam, to the goal of the ummah, to the goal of the organization, and also the human resources goals. Furthermore, minute matters must not distract a Muslim from reaching his objectives. So vision is the ability to see further than one's immediate surroundings and also circumstances. It is far, far beyond time. And maybe you are forecasting 10 years time what we are going to be and what we are going to do and how far we can be a better Muslim and so on. A plan may or may not be as successful if constructed without the insight, without the forecasting, and also without the vision. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises those who possess the trait of vision. As an example, Prophet Ibrahim, Isaac, and also Jacob are praised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their spiritual power and vision. As what Allah said in Surah Sad, ayat number 45 to 47. Similarly, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam praised Sa'id ibn Mu'adh for his vision and plan prior to the actual fight in the Battle of Badr. Sa'id's plan was centered around the safety of the Prophet rather than just the present circumstances of the battle. Okay, so you can read the story about Perang Badar or Battle of Badr by yourselves here. So based on that particular discussion of Sirah Nabawiyah, I think that's all for the discussion of human resource planning. For further reading, you can always look into the internet and please type human resource planning, human resource strategic planning, and so on. Get your own further readings to understand about human resource planning better, inshallah. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Bye.